Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm not going to have any filters, I'm not going to have any green screen set up except for the actual green screen itself because I want to keep it raw and real and just chat with all of you live. To talk a little bit about a few times in my publishing career where I almost quit publishing, and why I almost quit publishing and what ended up changing my mind, really. And I'm not talking about just sort of the imposter syndrome that hits authors and you're just like in a slump, but like the times where you really ask yourself, is what I'm doing worth it? Why am I doing this at all? Is anybody reading my books? Does anybody care? Because I think if you're a new author, you may not be prepared for what's coming with this stuff, and maybe hearing my experiences could help somebody else. I'm doing this live so that I can answer your questions. If you're watching on YouTube and have any questions, you can drop those up and I'll pull them up as I go along. If you're watching on Twitter, I don't know if those will come through, but you can try. And if you're watching the replay, you can leave questions in the comments and I'll be happy to come back and answer those. So with that, we're going to dive right in. My name is Katherine B. Graham. I'm a USA Today bestselling dark fantasy author, but I wasn't always. Honestly, I've always loved writing since I was a little kid and always dreamed of publishing. But the first time I went about publishing, I went about it all the wrong way. I had two young adult books that I wrote in high school and early college that I decided to put out. And me being young and naive and arrogant, I felt like, oh, well, I'm an editor, so I should be able to do this without any professional editing. I didn't really research the self-publishing side. All my experience had been with the traditional side. So I didn't do my due diligence in going into this the first time. And I was just so excited to actually hold my book, which I think is something that a lot of us authors go through, that I was sort of in a rush. I did ask a editor that I knew to edit my book, but I only gave her like 2 weeks, which is not enough time. I did not go through all the levels of editing. I didn't get it developmentally edited, line edited, copy edited, and all of that stuff. And I also tried to use the cover creator template thing on Amazon, and I put them up, and I did what maybe many indie authors do, which is I threw the book up on what was then CreateSpace. Seems like so long ago now, and ordered copies, sold them to my friends. And honestly, when the reviews from real people started coming in on Goodreads for those books and they were bad, it was because they were warranted. It made me go, I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't for me. I'm not supposed to be an author. And instead of stopping and researching and taking the time to know how to do it right, I actually walked away from publishing for several years. And over the course of those years, when I got connected with the editing company that I do work with now and started working with indie authors, I realized that there was so much that my own pride as a young person kept me from embracing about this journey, that it's not about your story, that your story is not necessarily going to be the lightning strike hit that gets all the reviews, and that my books deserved a better chance than I was giving them. So when I decided to publish The Vow That Twisted Fate, which was my first epic fantasy that I ever wanted to put out, I decided it was time to do it right. And I knew that coming from a traditional background wasn't going to be enough. So the first time I took my really long 6-7 year hiatus was after that first round of 2 flops. And I've actually left those books up on Goodreads, even though they're not published anywhere anymore. You can't buy them because I want other authors to see the raw, real truth that you can come back from being a flop to being somebody whose works are polished and professional and become something. And that if you work hard enough, 10 years later, I have a USA Today Bestseller title. And that wasn't on accident. That was from determination and accepting the fact that being an editor didn't mean anything if I didn't know what I was doing about the indie journey, if I wasn't willing to accept criticism and be open. So that was really my first round of lessons right there. So the second time going into the journey, I was like, I'm going to do this right. And I was humbled. I'd been hugely humbled from all the bad reviews that I had gotten on Amazon and everything. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this right. So I actually invested in a mentor, which was Lindsay with Of Ink and Pearls Publishing for The Vow That Twisted Fate. And it was the best money I have ever invested on anything in my life, because there are a million, it seems like, options of people on the internet asking for your money, asking for this, pay me this and I'll make you this, pay me this and I'll make you that. And I realized really quickly what the term vanity press means. The people who are, they'll literally publish your book, but they're charging you more than you would have had to pay if you'd done it yourself, or if you knew what you were doing. And most of the time, they're not going to tell you that you're not going to make your money back on one book. Like Lindsay was very upfront with me and said, if you get into this, your first book, you're not going to make your money back on your cost. Second book, you're not going to make your money back on your cost, but you'll make a little more. Third, you'll start getting there. And hopefully by 6 books, you'll be making at least enough to cover what you paid to put into the book. And so she set a really clear expectation for me of what this was going to be as an author journey, and not just someone writing for fun or putting things out for a hobby. So while that was one of the best things that I did, and she helped me start my website, my platform, and all this stuff for a fraction of the cost of these big schools that wanted $6,000 for what they teach you for the basics. She was phenomenal. And she set me up and tried to get me on a path that was going towards success. But there came a point where I hit my really big slump, number 2, which is what I'm about to dive into. So I got into Vow, and what sets up my second slump was really the mentality that this was a race. It was a sprint. I was putting all my extra money, because I worked a day job. I was putting all my extra money, all my extra time into marketing these books, into producing these books. I got a professional cover for the book. I set up an art team with over 30 people. I sent every single one of them a digital or a physical copy of the book, even if they were international, and like did all this swag and got character art designed and all the things, built a quiz, had a nice website, the whole deal. And Vow launched with about 30 pre-orders. And I was like, okay, yay, 30 pre-orders. I was really excited. And then it was like, wait, now I've got to write something else. And that was when it really hit me that this is a marathon, that is not a sprint. That I'd been approaching it as a sprint. I was exhausted. I was burning out. I was so tired, and I didn't have another book lined up. And I realized the big error, that I had wasted so much time marketing Vow without writing anything else, that I had nothing else to follow it up with. So I tried throwing in novellas to fill in the gap. But the novellas obviously are not going to connect with the reader like a full book is, especially following on the tail end of Vow, that had gotten a placement in the Next Generation Book Awards and a 5-star reader favorite review and a 5-star indie reader review. And I felt so much pressure, and I just didn't understand that I was setting myself up for burnout by really not approaching this in small, measurable chunks, and instead pushing forward with everything I had. And then there was just nothing left 2 weeks after Vow came out. And so I guess I hoped that I was still sort of small in the indie author journey. That was back in 2021. And I agreed to be in the Realm of Darkness box set with Splitting Dawn, which is the first in series of another series. And when I got going at that, it was a whole other level of work. Doing a USA Today list run where you're trying to sell 6,000 copies of your stuff, it is so much work. It is so much work. It took us 1.5 years to get that title. I like to say my blood, sweat, and tears, and the other authors too who were in the set, because it was full-length novels. These weren't short stories. Splitting Dawn's a full-length novel. So I was not only doing that, but marketing for the set. And because I was so busy with that in the day job, again, I didn't have time to really breathe, to really sleep that much. And I wore myself into the ground. So when Splitting Dawn came out, I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted. And I just felt my energy really drooping away. I was excited. I was thrilled that we hit the USA Today list, but I just had nothing left in me to give. So this time I went about it right. We got the title, we made the sales. The book is professional. I went back and read some of Splitting Dawn the other day, which is a dark fantasy romance, and I was like, I can't believe I wrote this. Sam, my editor, did Sam work some of this stuff in there when I wasn't looking? Because it was just like, wow, because I was in such a whirlwind that it just blows my mind that the book ended up being the way it did. But I sort of went to the opposite extreme. So the two that had flopped several years before, I did nothing. And then between Vow and when Splitting Dawn came out in Realm of Darkness, I did everything. And that's really when I hit slump number 2. It started right there. Finished Realm of Darkness, and I literally just wanted to sleep. It was so exhausting. But the readers were so excited, and I was trying to push through, and I was trying to find my purpose because I realized I couldn't maintain this long term. And I was wondering, should I be publishing at all? At that point, I knew there were people who would read my books, and that was ecstatic, or made me ecstatic. But I was an editor still for a day job. I'm not making enough off of my writing to quit my day job by any means. I'm in full transparency. And it's never been about the money necessarily, but I also have been getting very little sleep just to make everything work. And I'm a mom of 2 kids. And so I just started evaluating what was important in my life and what portion of my life writing should hold. Around that time, I got plugged into the Quill and Cup community, getting ready to go into the Realm of Darkness box set. I was introduced by C.K. Sorens to that community. If you're on my channel, you've probably seen the interview in my behind the scenes, indie author behind the scenes playlist with Anya and her husband, who are the founders of Quill and Cup. But basically, they pulled me out of a major bout of imposter syndrome. It was the community that really saved me the second time that I went into the writer slump. They have these workshops that really helped me focus on why I am doing what I'm doing, what I expect to get out of what I'm doing, and the investment. And really, I cannot encourage other writers who are watching enough to get connected with other writers, because this can be an isolating, lonely, hard journey, especially if you want to make it here more than the 1 or 2 years average than it seems like a lot of indies do these days. You need somebody that you don't have to wear a mask in front of, that you don't have to pretend to be something you're not in front of. And my whole reason starting this YouTube channel has been to be transparent for you guys so that you see what this is really like behind the scenes. And so Quill and Cup was that safe place for me when I was really going through a lot and trying to reconcile a lot. And so I came out going, okay, I've got this series of 5 books that is already written. I just have to revise them because I wrote them in high school, and I'm going to put those out. So I came out of slump number 2 because of the community. So just a brief recap for people who jumped on. Slump number 1 was because I rushed everything out and I didn't do any due diligence, and the book sucked and I got a ton of bad reviews, and they're now unpublished. And waited several years, was brought back out after meeting authors and learning about the process and everything. And slump number 2 is I worked too hard, too invested, and the community helped me work myself out of that one. And then the third is the most recent one. And this is when all your best laid plans come crashing down on your head, or they did in my case. I put out volume 1 of Lord's Gambit, which is Oracle of Life, in January. I put out book 2 in February, and then book 3, Vanguard of Justice, was supposed to come out in March. But as those of you who watch the channel, follow me on Instagram know, the file was corrupted when I went to upload it. the formatting and everything. It was just gone. And I went to upload it off my backup and it was corrupted. And I tried to pull an old hard drive from an old computer and it was corrupted. And I realized I was going to have to rewrite the whole book. And at first I was very hopeful that I was going to knock it out super fast. But then as I got into writing it, I realized it needed to be done correctly. I didn't want to end up where I was the first time that I rushed a book out and it was crap 6-7 years ago, and have a repeat of that. And my readers deserve better than that. And the book deserves better than that. So I've paused, slowed down. I'm taking the time to write it and edit it correctly and everything. But then I started looking at the stats for my genre, because I'm a pitch coach as part of my day job. So I research industry trends and for traditional publishing, and help authors who want to go traditional refine their query letters, refine their synopsis, do their queries, and get signed. So I was looking through those and I was noticing that dark epic fantasy is trending down. And I was like, I don't know. It made me consider the long haul of what I'm doing. You need between 6 and 20 books, depending on your genre, according to the surveys that ALLI, the Alliance of Independent Authors, released, to really start seeing regular income. And it's, like I said, it's not that I was wanting to make money off my book, but it is an expensive endeavor to get a professional cover with custom drawn illustration and get the formatting and all of that stuff. It's costing me at least $1,000 a book to put it out. And so seeing the trends down made me start to go, do I have a future in this genre? And the last 2 months, in full transparency, have been some of the hardest months of my life when it comes to deciding what to do for publishing. Not because I'm in a imposter syndrome slump, but because I'm wondering, is there going to be an audience? Are there going to be readers? If I'm being realistic with myself and looking outside of how I feel about my own books, which is something that I recommend to the authors that I coach when they're deciding whether or not to go traditional or to self-publish, to ask yourself your why. If you're looking for the money, then if your book's in a downward spiral, you need to reconsider whether or not you're going to be able to go trad with it. If you're in it for readers, though, those niches of people are well worth reaching. There were some other subgenres that I write that are starting to trend up in traditional, which made me wonder if I should try to go hybrid with those, meaning keep the self-published series that I have and finish those as self-published books, but try to get an agent and try to get representation to go traditional publishing with those series. If I wanted to stop publishing altogether, if I should start a whole new pen name and write to market in a totally different genre that I'm sort of meh about writing, just to have something to write to market. And I came face to face with deciding my why. And really the only thing that I know how to say, if you are in this position and you're defeated by the representation game, and you're defeated by the traditional publishing game, and you're defeated by the deflating numbers in your genre, or you don't know where you're starting, is to unplug sometimes is the most helpful thing you can do for yourself. My family had a very rough beginning of this year. We had a lot of illness passed around. And in April, I actually took a vacation. And for the first time since my oldest son was born, I did not take electronics with me. I left my laptop at home. I took all the socials off of my cell phone. I pre-scheduled my posts to go on Instagram and everything, but I didn't bring anything with me. And during that week, it really helped me refocus on what really matters in my life and what really is worthy of my time. And I realized that writing is definitely a part of that. And if I'm going to be writing, putting it out for the world to read is definitely a part of that. And I gave myself permission to take each book, each series, and treat it as its own individual project If it's one that I think is in line with what is trending in the market, I will try to pitch it. If it is not, I will take it and find the niche audience who I know will love it and appreciate it on the indie side. And the clarity that I got just being unplugged is what brought me out of the last slump and really left me with a roadmap of here is where I want to be 5 years from now. And it's not being necessarily the author whose name everybody in the world knows, but being someone who is writing the books that she loves and the stories that she's passionate about and putting it out there for readers who are loving it and as passionate about it as I am, even if that is not in a traditional market, or even if I have to shift from indie to traditional to find it. So I don't know if this has been helpful at all. I appreciate the people who I see who've tuned in. But really, that's my story, I guess, over the last 2 years. It's been a long time since I've done just a raw, open update like this. But find your why, I guess, is my biggest takeaway here. If I wanted to do this for an income, for money, I would be taking a very different approach to this. I would be shifting into that right to market, try a new pen name, try a new genre. But really, the time with my loved ones is time I will never get back. And if I lose my health, I'm going to not have anything to give into writing or to being with my family, with my friends. So I can't continue to pour out more than I have to make this work. And additionally, I don't think my books are as good a quality when I'm pouring out of emptiness as it would be pouring out of a full cup. So I hope that all of you can find a warm, welcoming community to help you through the slumps where you do wonder if your book's good enough, because the community is the best way to find that and to remind you of your why. But the community can't serve you, and you can't serve others as well if you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. So you've got to find that first. I wish you all the best with your own writing and publishing journey. I know it's hard. I'm proud of you. I'm trying to read as many of your books as I can for my fellow indies. Much love to all of you, and I will catch you guys on the next live. Oh, thanks. Oh, I hope you come out of it. Yeah, the marketing is tough. Sales and marketing is soul crushing. But always learning. Like even right now, I'm getting ready to go into a marketing conference at the end of this week and take a notebook with me and write, because I'm always willing to learn more. And I'm not ashamed to tell people I don't have the answers to this. I don't know this, but somebody else does. So, yeah, but if you get so bogged down in marketing, it makes it so you don't really want to write or do anything else. So hang in there. All right, everybody. Take care. Bye.